Hey y'all, it's Vanessa Love and this is my channel. Today is not so much about mental health, but kind of. So, I was watching I think it was a YouTube short, and it was about how the medical community has mostly ignored women, and we all kind of acknowledge that this is a thing. And one of the points that was made was that, maybe periods do play a bigger role in women's health than the medical community wants to admit. Because that if that's one of the variables that is just kind of out there, and will make their data offset, then maybe that is a indication that periods are important for women's health. um, I try not to accept everything that comes across my page, but there are some things sometimes that come across and I'm just like, oh, that's okay, yes, that makes a lot of sense. So, in that line, I do want to talk about the rhythm method. When I was growing up, the rhythm method was taught as that's how you become a parent, and that's it. That was just don't do it. And I understand. You can't entirely, account for teenagers being completely responsible and to the point all the time. However, it's interesting because as an adult, people use this to get pregnant. So why wouldn't you use the same thing to not be pregnant? It was very odd the first time that I had a conversation with someone who was like, yeah, I used the rhythm method and I don't have a kid after having my kid 2 years ago. Things are going fine. And also, in thinking about that, I did have a women's studies professor who would go to India and teach people how to do the rhythm method. The rhythm method, there's two parts to it. Some people don't do the second part. It's a thing. So, the rhythm method is basically taking your temperature every day and seeing what day you're a little bit more warm, because that's the day that you're most fertile. So you do that for a couple of months and you get an idea of how that works for you. The other part of that people don't want to do, which is, mostly understandable, is to look at the discharge. Yeah, I think that sometimes there's such internalized misogyny that people are like, no. But there is different types, or there are different types of discharge, and the discharge changes depending on the the hormones and where the woman is, or the person is in their cycle. So you will definitely notice that there is a difference in discharge. Um, yeah, I'm not gonna. I don't know if I should go into detail about that, but there is definitely a difference. And once you know kind of how your body reacts and what that change is, then you will know. So it again is all just numbers. And for some people, that is a very easy thing to do. And you just have to keep up with it. And I think that's where people have to understand that this is a long a long period of time where you have to keep track of this every day. And there are some people out there who can acknowledge their weaknesses, and there are some people who cannot acknowledge their weaknesses. And so there are times where it's completely fine and okay to just be like, yeah, I cannot possibly do that. My life is too all over the place, just scattered. It is fine. Don't do this. If you are one of the people who has a steady or more steady life than some of the other people, and you can definitely take your temperature every day and you feel comfortable doing that, then you can do it. It does not have to be complicated here, but you do have to acknowledge what you need in order to No, right? Like, and if you can do all of the things it takes to go through with this, this is the benefit of having some of the period apps. I know people are avoiding period apps. There is P Tracker. P Tracker came out a while ago and said, hey, we are not going to release any information to police or the government. Thank you. I'm very happy for that. Then there are other things like there are people who pay attention to when they are ovulating because sometimes that requires a lot and their brain chemistry changes a little bit and they get a little bit depressed. Again, one of those things that it does kind of relate to mental health. And for some people, they have different types of periods, so sometimes they're just crying all the time, but it's PMS, or like it's okay if like there's other reasons outside of a period to be angry or anything like that. I know that a lot of women unfortunately have had the experience of being like, are you sure it's just not your period? And instead of like being taken seriously as far as like this is how this goes, and like I mean I've definitely heard stories like that, and I've heard stories even from like people who went to their gynecologist because they're like, okay, the discharge is different, and the gynecologist was like, are you sure it's not just like a different time in like your your cycle? And it's like some people know what's typical for their cycle. It's okay to also be like, this is not typical. Please take me seriously. Like, I understand that like this could look like that. That's not what this is. Please make sure I'm okay. Fun. So yes, and like as I said, some people cry, some people get angry, some people like get more productive. So the other aspect of this is that like there are plenty of people out there who have normal periods, who have a little bit of pain during their period and some cramping. It lasts for 3 to 7 days and they're done. Okay? If it is more than a little bit of pain, you might need to go and get some serious testing done for either like PCOS or endometriosis. Like there's a lot that can go on with a whole lot with the body and whether or not they have the resources to have a period. So like if there's no period, if there's any excruciating pain, please go and get that checked out because it is not normal. And if there's any like super high highs or super low lows before or after, like that's something that is not a part of like the regular accepted kind of like experience. So like that might also need to be checked out. And I apologize if this has to come from someone who doesn't know you, right? And who just happens to just kind of give general, guidance about this stuff. Like, those are things that are not, like, part of a normal period. And, like, if your doctor or if your gyno doesn't take that as seriously as you do, find someone who is a specialist, who knows what they're talking about, and can look at everything and tell them, I think I have PCOS, I think I have endometriosis, and make sure that you do not fall into that 7-year time span of not being properly diagnosed with endometriosis or PCOS when you could have been, had anyone taken you seriously. Like, again, there are normal, expected, sometimes pain, sometimes cramping, sometimes a little bit of like weirdness, but it does not have to be very, very painful, and you would know the difference, right? Or gone or too light when it's usually not, or too heavy. Like there's a lot that can go on with that is too much. And like please don't let any doctor tell you, oh, I think that's normal. No. mm-mm, like, please go get checked out. And again, if your doctor doesn't believe you, find someone, who will either explain it to you well and hear you out, or who will be like, oh no, absolutely no, that you are completely right. Like, you need to get that checked out. Like, there needs to be something else, like, is some other medication, treatment, something for this, because it's not normal. Yeah. Anyway, I hope that was helpful for you, and I will talk with you soon. All right, have a good one.